Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director David Riggleman. It's a sad reality for so many young people in our community. On today's show, we'll discuss the state of our youth and homelessness. Joining us with more on all this issue and a whole lot more through our whole show is Councilwoman Nancy Bruni. She represents Ward 6. Welcome back to the program, Councilwoman. How are you?
Great. The fall weather's here.
It is. You got your vest on. You look good. You're prepared. An important topic today. We're going to get into that here in a few minutes. But for those of you out there, you know Ward 6 like the back of your hand. For those of you out there not exactly sure where Ward 6 is located, well, don't worry about it. What we're going to show you right on the map is that area right at the top of the valley. Of course, if you live in that area or work in that area, then you're in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas. And if you're a resident out there, you were represented on the city council almost for a year now by Councilwoman Nancy Bruni. Of course, Councilwoman, we have a special guest here today. We're happy to introduce, because homelessness doesn't reside just in one area of the valley, it resides across the valley. And one of the areas where we're really seeing a tremendous uptick in the number of homeless is in our youth. So our special guest today, we're very pleased to have him with us, is Arash Ghafoori. Arash is the CEO of the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth, a wonderful organization. Arash, you've been there 10 years or more.
Yeah, almost 13 years.
Good for you.
Yes.
Good for you. It's important work. Great to have you on the program. We're going to have a wonderful discussion today about the importance of the work that you're doing. Councilwoman, from your perspective, a couple of your priorities since you've been on the council have been housing and ending homelessness. And this is an area, I think, where people know we have homeless, but they may not know the extent of homeless youth that we have in Southern Nevada. And it's become a number that just continues to rise over the years.
And I think it's one of our most vulnerable populations. So on any given day, there are probably 300 people in our valley that don't have a place to live, which equates to thousands of people every year, young people not having a home. About 12% of the entire country's teen homeless population resides in Nevada. And every year, Nevada ranks probably third, fourth, fifth in the number of homeless teens in the country or in the state. And so it's a real problem. About 13,000 kids in CCSD report themselves as homeless, couch surfing, not having a stable living environment. So it is a real crisis.
And I think, Councilwoman and Arash, I think the thing that makes that number so troublesome to me is the fact that we rank high, but we're not one of the most populous states in the union by any stretch. You'd think, well, our numbers would be more in line with our population, less of a problem here with homeless youth. But why that staggering number, Arash? Why are we experiencing such high levels here in Southern Nevada?
Yeah, let's frame that real quick. 12% of all homeless youth in the entire country.
That's incredible.
Reside here in our great state. So even if, to your point, even if you're just to divide all the states by 100, it should be around 2%. If you think about per capita adjustments, we're not the most densely populated, state in the country. So these numbers are an outlier, which is why we have one of the worst incidences of youth homelessness. And this is a range of factors. And the first thing to explain is why youth homelessness is unique. And youth homelessness is unique because it happens to young people during their most critical and formative education years. It happens while they're still developing mentally, physically, psychologically, socially as well. And it often happens suddenly and unpredictably for young people. Why? Because they're supposed to have someone or an entity taking care of them if they're minors. And when those systems sort of fail them, they're thrust into homelessness rather quickly. And what's unique about that circumstance is that when it comes to an adult experiencing homelessness, every intervention, every organization works around the premise that we have to get this person back to a point of independence and stability because they know what to do if they can have that. But for young people, they've never practiced independence. They've never learned what it's like to be on their own or what it means to balance checkbooks, pay rent, avoid predatory things, etc. So our work is cut out for us. But the reason why we have such elevated numbers in our state is a couple things. One is the status of our education system. is the fact that in our community we have one of the worst affordable housing crises. And the reason young people become homeless when they're dependent on something or someone else is often the family unit. When the family unit is stressed out by everything from finances to housing to the employment market being crazy, and we saw during COVID that the employment market got much worse. People struggled for entry-level jobs. In addition to that, rent almost doubled during COVID for many of our members of our community for apartments and things like that. So these things are staggering, creating staggering pressure on families, and that ripples down to young people. But it's not just finances, it's not just poverty, it's other things too that don't care about how much money you have in your bank account that young people are becoming victims to. These are things like domestic violence. These are things like drugs and other types of abuse or violence or patterns that families, the adults sometimes practice that then ripple down to the young people. So we often say, youth homelessness isn't just a zip code issue, isn't just a color of a skin issue. It transcends a lot of socioeconomic trends because young people are getting kicked out of their home simply because of their gender identity, their sexuality, because they don't conform to another cultural norm that's normal there, but may not translate to where we're living today. So these factors impact young people. Not to mention also, we also have environmental factors here. It is a place that you can survive outdoors. It is also a 24/7 environment. So we see young people from Utah and from other areas that literally could not survive in their elements during the fall and winter and harsh months that come here as well. But it's not just the same group of young people that are keeping our numbers high. We did a needs assessment recently, and we found that over 70% of the people that entered into the system between 2021 and 22, and by people I mean young people below the age of 24.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Arash, kind of what's the range? When we talk about homeless youth, what are we talking about? How young to how old?
Yeah, so sometimes unaccompanied minors are young people under the age of 18 who are experiencing homelessness, and then we have young adults from the ages of 18 through 24. So typically federal government, Department of Education, the broadest definition is really anyone under the age of 24 that is experiencing housing instability or other homelessness is considered a homeless youth. And back to what I was saying earlier, during that time period, 2021-22, 70% of young people accessing our local system were new to homelessness. So this is not just the same young people that are keeping through our system. These are new young people that are also entering our system as well because of these upstream factors.
And Arash, that is such an important figure. I think, Councilwoman, we have the sense with adults that it's kind of the same people that cycle through over and over and over. But with young people, that's a staggering number. This is a new group each time that we're dealing with. So Arash, it's like, you know, trying to roll the boulder up the hill and it keeps rolling back down. And you must feel that to some degree as you battle this issue.
Absolutely, and that's why it's critically important to serve our mission properly and as adequately as can. We have to be thinking about immediate intervention services for those young people that are experiencing this issue right now, while we also try to combat upstream issues, typically called prevention measures, that we can take to make sure young people don't have to go down into the homelessness system because of their circumstances.
Arash, tell the Councilwoman and I, what does your organization do to try to help these young people get out of the situation that they're in?
Yes, so we do that in two ways. We focus on immediate critical intervention services, and then we focus on future-oriented long-term services that focus on independence. Those are our direct services. And in addition to that, we do a lot of systems-level advocacy. But for our direct services, we do the entire spectrum. We do outreach where we're out there trying to connect with young people so they don't have to turn to the streets when the situation of homelessness knocks on their door. We're doing outreach every day, every week. We do it in schools, we do it on the streets, we do it in different community settings. The Councilwoman's been out there when we've done outreach, has also done—
No, she has, that's great.
And also done volunteer projects to help prepare for the supplies that we distribute during those events. We also have the only emergency shelter in Clark County that will take a young person as young as 12 years old beyond the 72-hour hold. We also have a drop-in center that gets about 15,000 visits annually from 500 to 600 unduplicated youth every year. And when they come to our drop-in centers, just like it sounds, they can drop in, but there's over 100 different services on site. Youth are taking showers before they go to school or they go to work. They're getting new clothes. They're seeing a therapist. They're getting case management. There's virtual high school. There's tutoring services. There's traditional case management services, transportation assistance, you name it, but also a safe environment where they can actually just relax and be themselves. These are young people. They need custom tailored services. They can't go to an adult shelter and get the success and the care that they need. They need custom tailored services. So our drop-in center is also a place, a beacon of hope, a beacon of fun, a beacon of inclusivity that's designed for young people to feel like it's their place. And we're just there to help and facilitate things that they need. So we don't actually we don't prescribe services. We partner with our young people to determine the best routes. So we have outreach, we have emergency shelter, we have a drop-in center, we have a 54-bed housing program as well. For young people that have no other options, they can live with us anywhere from a couple months to 2+ years. And that's our most intensive service offering, where they live with us free of charge through apartments and housing units throughout the valley, and they work on education, workforce development, housing success, and life skills. That is a huge one that we don't talk about.
It would seem that way, Arash and Councilwoman. Boy, what a tough way to come into this world, being homeless. And then how is that not going to change your direction for the rest of your life? And I think that's what you're saying, is you try to get them back on a positive trajectory to where their lives can have an uptick versus descending down into homelessness as an adult then too.
Exactly. And that's not just case management. We also do a lot of intensive mental health services as well. Because we always say, when a young person is experiencing homelessness, in the middle of it, you can't just hand them a 12-page guide on how to be an adult, keys to an apartment, and some gift cards, and expect them to figure it out. They actually need time to recover from their trauma.
Sure.
A lot of times our services are designed where it starts at outreach. We're trying to build rapport with young people on the streets. Young people, when they come to us, they are not trusting adults and they're not trusting institutional figures, because those places have often failed them. Therefore, it's not as easy as just pulling up with, a white van, an outreach van with candy and Gatorade and say, hey, come with me. We're strange outreach adults. That's why we bring our services to the streets and make a rapport and connection with them in their environments. And sometimes when they're ready, they can access services. Other times when that critical thing happens, they can call our Safe Place program, which is one of our other programs I didn't mention. That yellow diamond with the word Safe Place is on every RTC bus, over 400 buses, every City of Las Vegas Fire Department, every Clark County Library, every City of Henderson Library, and over 140 Terrible Herbs gas stations. What that means is a young person can walk in when they're experiencing crisis 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we will pick them up. Holidays, anything, when the school bell rings, after school, we will pick them up. And the whole point of that is to make sure they have an alternative off the streets, because homelessness for young people happens very suddenly and unpredictably. They can be going to school today, think everything is fine, and come back to the home being gone, the parents being gone, their environment being gone.
You know, Arash, I know Councilwoman has been very involved in this subject, and obviously a very good one to concentrate on, Councilwoman. Are we making any progress in your opinion? You're seeing this from an objective side of someone who's looking at the whole picture. Are we making progress here? I know Arash's organization is out there working very hard, but are we getting ahead of this curve?
So the short answer is I don't think we are, because we still remain sort of third, fourth, fifth in the country. And I think, as Arash has mentioned, like the demand just keeps, or the incidence just keeps growing, right? So it's hard to sort of get ahead of it. I think, the fact that you have been, or your organization has been so responsive. I mean, when I met you 10 years ago, right, you were doing maybe half of all the services you just talked about. So clearly you are responding to the need, but I would argue we probably need 3 more of you, or 3 times as many staff members to truly help all these kids and give them the case management. I think the sort of a recent HUD report said that, while we do have some strengths, just coordinating or working together to coordinate services across the ecosystem is something that we all need to do a better job with.
Councilwoman, you hear often that we don't have services for people who are housed. How are we stacking up for services for people who are unhoused, especially unhoused youth? Do we have enough available services?
Well, I know Arash mentioned mental health, but I think some of the research suggested that 40% of kids or 50% of homeless youth or unhoused youth have reported that they do have a mental health issue, but only about 9% are actually accessing mental health services. And then, drug addiction, sometimes kids who are homeless, they're homeless because of a substance abuse disorder, or then because they're on the streets with all the trauma sort of turn to drugs. I think 40% have indicated they have some sort of substance abuse problem, but only about 10% of those kids are getting the services they need, the substance abuse treatment program. And so I think I think we just need to fund more programs and to provide those programs so they're truly meeting the young people where the need is at. And helping them so that we don't actually, I think right now the greatest fear is that if we don't provide the supports that kids need, they will become part of the chronically adult homeless population, which, as you well know, we are also struggling with that as a community.
Every day in the city, it's a battle we fight, Arash.
To kind of frame it, so if we were to throw out a bat signal that says every young person come in for services, we'll give you a lot of money, just really anything that we can do to incentivize them to come in, our entire state could only house, shelter or otherwise, about 40% of the population that we know exists today. So we have a capacity problem in our entire state in having enough service. And that's the biggest difference between us and other communities or states that have similar incidences of homelessness, is that we have the highest rate of unhoused, meaning we just don't have a simple place for them to go while they get the intervention services, whether it's drugs, mental health, or other things like that. And the definition of solving this issue for our community is everything that the councilwoman has mentioned. It's really focusing on the ecosystem. We have to serve the young people on the ground, but we have to make the ecosystem behave better for
makes complete sense
for young people. And we've defined that in a very simple way. We released the Southern Nevada Plan to End Youth Homelessness, which the City Council actually voted to adopt as the city's response to youth homelessness. But in that, the definition of solving youth homelessness for our community is simply, we will never stop the reasons why a young person may have to experience instability in their home. But we can define success as making sure that young persons don't have to turn to the streets because of that circumstance. Because it's when they go to the streets that there's downward pressures, that there's nefarious actors, traffickers, others, etc. And to Councilwoman Bruni's point, if we don't do anything about it, they enter right into the adult homelessness system or the prison system or drain the healthcare system, etc.
It becomes part of a more chronic problem,
And we want more civically engaged citizens, and they need to be educated, they need to be housed, and that's kind of how we are defining success.
Can I ask you, do you know how many beds we have for unhoused teenagers right now? I mean, I think it's like maybe 300, or what would you say?
It is around that, but I do know that in comparison to the amount of teens that we've counted in our state, it's about only 40% on average a year. So I think it is around 300 beds total throughout the state.
Arash, Councilwoman, we only have a few minutes left with you, but we want to talk about this summit you have coming up. This is so important. I think this is a way for the community to not only get involved, but to understand this issue. I'm sure many people are watching this right now saying, I had no idea the problem is what it is here. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, we came to realization that, one, the issue of youth homelessness really doesn't have a bright spotlight on it. It's often shoveled under the rug. Two, not one sector of government, not one philanthropist, and not one nonprofit can solve the issue of youth homelessness. We wanted to band together as a community. So we started the movement to end youth homelessness, where we brought over 40 local partners, local government, local agencies, our sister nonprofit agencies, education agencies, justice agencies, etc. And we all started talking about how can we cast a brighter spotlight. And over the years, we've convened thousands for our annual summits. The summits are really a learn in the morning and commit to action in the afternoon. So by our second summit, we had the first Southern Nevada Plan to End Youth Homelessness. Over the years, we've helped local government increased their funding to agencies. We've also passed 2 laws to reduce barriers around vital docs for young people and to also reduce medical access barriers. Did you know that during COVID, the suicide rate of homeless youth was 7 times higher than their house peers?
Know that. No.
And mental health is now emerging as the #1 reason young people are reporting that they're experiencing homelessness, whether it's their mental health or mental health in their home
family
environment.
Yeah.
So the summit and the movement is really an all-angle attack for our community to bring us all together and act as one big body with a common North Star on how we can define and solve this issue.
And when is it?
It is happening this year, November 8th at the Smith Center, and you can learn more information by going to www.nphy.org.
Okay, and I know somebody named Councilwoman Bruni who's attended this summit in the past.
It is.
Tell us about your experience and how this kind of changed your whole look on this issue.
Well, I think it's so helpful to be in the room with so many of the different stakeholders, but what I love about it is that it is, as Arash was saying, a place where once people are sharing ideas, you realize like, oh, maybe this is a barrier that we didn't know it existed. Is there a policy change or piece of legislation that we could actually pursue to make a difference in the lives of many of our unhoused teens? So it is not a waste of time. It's a great opportunity to go and really just be part of the conversation to work towards that North Star.
If you care, if this is a subject that you care about, and I don't know how you couldn't, maybe get involved in that summit because it's an opportunity to figure out how you can be a help.
Everyday people can get involved. We don't want people to think that they have to be an elected official or in the nonprofit sector. We've actually designed the summit to engage everyday members of our community in how they can mobilize to create change and to be advocates for young people experiencing homelessness in our communities.
Well, Arash Ghafoori from Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth, what an eye-opening discussion. Lived here many years.
We need a couple of hours.
Yeah,
thank you for
just like touch the surface.
It's been a pleasure, and wishing you the very best. And again, one more time, tell everybody the summit, November 8th, Smith Center.
Yes.
What time does it
The
start?
Nevada Summit to End Youth Homelessness. It's going to be November 8th. It starts at 9 o'clock at the Smith Center.
Okay, and is it open to the public, free to the public?
It is open to the public. Registration is online.
Okay, registration is online. Okay, very good. Well, we hope that people take advantage, and if you can do something to help break this cycle in our community, we'd love to get you on board here. So, Arash Ghafoori, thank you so much for being with us. Councilwoman, you stick around because we're going to talk about some upcoming events that you have in your ward that we want to make sure people are aware of. So that's coming up right after this break. We're going to tell you about some things Councilwoman Bruni wants to make sure you know about. That's right after this.
You want a great ride-share experience? Don't ride with us. But if you drive after drinking or consuming cannabis, this is the ride you're going to get. Plan a ride, or we'll pick you up. Paid for by the Nevada Departments of Public Safety and Transportation.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Councilwoman Nancy Bruni from Ward 6, and we have some events that are coming up that we want to be sure to mention because these are good. Councilwoman, Saturday, November 4th.
Yes.
Document shredding. Don't be a victim of identity theft.
Yeah, it's one of our most popular events.
They are.
Please bring old documents and old prescriptions down to the collection on November 4th.
Yeah. Former Mayor Pro Tem, Council Member Stavros Anthony was a former Metro police officer. He was really an advocate against protecting yourself against identity theft. He got these started, and I kind of chuckled when we first did the first few. I thought, oh, will people actually come to these? And they're hugely popular.
They're very popular.
So.
We get calls like, all year.
I know you do.
When's the next one?
Exactly.
Which ward is having one?
Exactly.
I will say, please check your documents. Please make sure there are no batteries or unintended.
Big clips, paper.
The
paper clips are fine, but the big clips to hold binders, take it all out. It's just the paper.
Just the paper. Staples are okay, but nothing more than the staples.
Exactly right.
We had an unfortunate fire in another ward where somebody had included batteries. So
they did. One time we had somebody try to recycle an old phone too. It ended up, it'll tear up the equipment. So don't throw a phone into the document.
But the prescriptions can come in either a plastic bag or their original bottle. So just bring those any way you have them.
Don't flush them down the toilet. Don't throw them in the trash. Don't leave them in the medicine cabinet for some other day. Get rid of them, and this is the safest way to do it. So, so Councilwoman, that's again Saturday, November 4th. That's at 10 to noon at the Centennial Hills Y, and then later on that day, actually going on at the same time, you have a cleanup. You involved in Get Outdoors
we are
Nevada.
partnering with one of our great nonprofit community partners, Get Outdoors Nevada, and we are cleaning up the Centennial Hills Park, which is one of our bigger parks.
That's
It gets
huge.
a lot of love, a lot of use, and so Get Outdoors Nevada does a great job of getting together anywhere from 30 to 60 volunteers to come out and spend a couple of hours picking up micro trash and just making sure the park looks amazing.
We really are. We have wonderful grounds crews that do beautiful jobs at our parks, but they can't get to every little nook and cranny. And so those little bits and pieces of trash and gum wrappers that get into the bushes, this is where our volunteers go and just make it look spick and span. So again, that's going to be also on November 4th, 9 to 11. Out at the Centennial Hills Park. And again, Get Outdoors Nevada, like you say, wonderful organization, great partner with us. And last but not least, this is my favorite because it involves food.
Although you haven't been there yet, so you'll have to come.
I got to get out and say hello
Stop
to you. I know, they're out in the ward, and I'm always down here at City Hall, but it's your Bocaditos with Bruni, November 9th from 9 to noon. And again, it's great that you're out in the ward at the Centennial Hills Y.
Yep, we do it every month. We get a great crowd, lots of new faces every month, and it's just fun to come out and hear what different people are thinking
issues,
about or concerned.
Very informal, which is very nice.
Informal,
You're coming to them versus them having to come to City Hall, and it's. I've seen video of the events out there and photos. It's very casual.
It is very casual,
So.
And last time, a couple of my neighbors came out, and we arranged a walking
Nice.
date after that.
That's
so
great. That's great.
It's really nice to just meet new people and connect.
Yeah. Well, you have done a great job since joining the council of being accessible to the community, making yourself available, listening to the issues, making it easier for people to communicate with you and to connect with you. And again, here's another opportunity, everybody. So if you want to see the councilwoman, visit with her about any issue, you're welcome to do that again. It's going to be November 9th, 9 to noon. At Centennial Hills YMC. That's such a beautiful facility out there as it is.
It is.
So.
Very busy as well.
It is. It is. Gets a lot of traffic, and rightfully so. It's a great facility. So, well, Councilwoman, great job. Our time went by. That discussion with Arash was really, really informative and eye-opening. Las Vegas is resilient. We always figure out ways to get things taken care of. So I'm believing that that's going to be the next thing we're going to tackle and start to turn around here. So. But in the meantime, Councilwoman, we're about out of time, so we want to tell everyone out there, we always want to hear from you. So if there's something you'd like to share with Councilwoman Bruni, you can find her on Facebook and Twitter. You can also contact her at 702-229-6405 or send her an email. Her address is nbruni@lasvegasnevada.gov. And she or one of her great staff will get right back to you about any issue that you might have. So wonderful job. Happy fall.
Always good to chat with you, David.
Vice versa.
Yes.
Vice versa. You obviously are very committed to your ward in this community. We always have great discussions on this show, so I appreciate that. And for our quote-unquote...
Thank you for allowing me to bring some data and a new topic.
Sure. Yeah, it's fun. It's been interesting, eye-opening. It's kind of run the gamut, but this discussion today is a perfect example of, this is something we need to bring some light on as a community to get this fixed. So anyway, well, great discussion with you. Have you back in 6 weeks. Be the holiday time next time we see you.
Celebrating with Christmas bells. Or...
Exactly. Be here for it. We know it. So looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, everybody, we thank you for joining us for Access City Council. Our next show begins airing on November 9th with Mayor Pro Tem Brian Knutson. You can now catch all of our KCLV shows on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. And watch for our QR code during the closing credits of this show to subscribe to our newsletter. Don't forget, you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you next time around.